What's up, everybody? If we haven't met yet, my name is Will Paxton. I've been a musician for 20 years, and I've been recording my music and the music of others for about 10 years now. Today, I want to do a behind-the-scenes look at a song off of my latest release, the Hymns Reimagined rock release. The song is The Love of God. It is in a various form of rock style. So this is my favorite hymn and a compilation of my favorite elements of rock. So there is heavy guitars, there is very cool guitar solo, there is a cut time chorus, there's soaring vocals, there's djent guitars, there's some heavy vocals in the middle of it, and a cool breakdown that I enjoyed putting together, and countless other little things here and there that I really enjoyed adding to this song. But one of the biggest reasons I enjoy the song now is because I featured my wife as the main vocalist. I've got my wife singing on it, and I've got one of my best friends doing a preaching part in the beginning and the end. And there's a cool story behind that. It's actually a video he did a long time ago of himself street preaching on the love of God. And I was originally going to ask him to do just a one-off, like get on your phone or record yourself preaching for, 30 seconds here and 30 seconds there. But he said, I've got this video on YouTube that I put out several years ago on the love of God that I think would be perfect for this. And I found it and basically ended up just taking it, cutting it in half and then putting it in here. I did a couple little edits and chops to kind of move some words around to make it fit better. But literally, it was like 5 minutes worth of work, and it was the way that I wanted it to be. And so you could call it providential. I get goosebumps every time I hear this part of the beginning and the end of the song, just because I know how providential it was. So the song is in B. There's a B major. There's some B minor eventually in like the little intro section. None of it actually goes in the key of B major, which is funny. It's kind of an amalgamation of B major, B minor, E minor. Anyways, we'll go into some of the chord structure a little bit later on. As you can see, I've got a little bit of coffee. I wanted to give you a disclaimer. If you've made it this far, this is going to be a long video. The song is 5.5 minutes long. That in itself is a lot to talk about, but it also has 92 tracks. So there's a lot of cool underlying elements that you may not hear or you may not hear very well that I want to pull out, and just some behind the scenes stuff that I wanted to showcase in this video. So hold on, you're in for a pretty exciting ride. Anyways, let's dive into this song. I'll play the intro and then I'll play some various portions of it and kind of give you some backstory on anything that needs to be pulled out. Here is the intro.
Oh, the depth and the breadth and the width and the height of the grace and mercy and love of God. You cannot fathom it. Most people who ever experience the love of God can't get over it. They can't hardly speak about it without crying. They can't hardly think about it without trembling or rejoicing. They can't hardly think about the grace of God without just saying, how could he save me?
So in that beginning portion, what I've got is some guitars, piano, and strings, and some bass, and the drums are doing a cool little groove. So to start off, I'll just play the piano and the strings, because I think that arrangement's kind of neat. It's warm, like there's a warmth to the piano and warmth to the strings, and I think it just sounds pretty.
Oh, the depth and the breadth and the width and the height of the grace and mercy.
So yeah, there's the piano and the strings, and then the guitars are doing some fun stuff too. There's just a basic little arpeggiated fingerpick guitar and some little lead type guitars going on. And then halfway through, there's a tapping guitar. So this is what those guitars sound like. Tapping guitar. There's some reverse guitars going on there. I'll talk about more on those in just a minute because they are a foundation for the first verse. Something really cool also that goes on is the bass is doing a cool little part, some syncopated rhythms along with the drums, and there's a piano swell at the beginning. Let's poke out the drums real quick. So yeah, that's a cool groove in the beginning. I programmed the drums on here piece by piece because in my Easy Drummer I couldn't find a pattern that would fit what was in my head, so I had to pretend to be a drummer for a while. Hopefully I did it justice. Some of my drummer friends might say I wouldn't have played like that, or maybe you should have tried something different, but I like how it turned out. It's one of my favorite songs that I've produced so far. Hopefully more to come, but I really did enjoy the process of producing this song. So let's hop in to verse 1, and I'll pull out some more stuff out of that. I'll play through verse 1 before the pre-chorus, and then we'll talk some more.
The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell.
So there's a lot to break down there. The piano's doing a really cool thing, just a way high up kind of plinky thing. This is what that sounds like by itself. It's kind of ambient, a little spooky. I like it. So then the guitars, there's a reverse guitar going on, and there's that tapping guitar part. And then the second half, there's some what I call gent guitars. They're just doing kind of like a half bend, playing a little harder with the pick, and doing like a half bend to kind of accentuate the note. So here's the guitars in the first half of the verse. This is what they sound like. So you have your tapping guitar, and then these two reverse guitars. So what I did with those is I literally set my metronome, went a little bit later on in the song after the song ends. I played the progression in the reverse order and then took that and reversed the whole thing. And so that was the result of that. And this is just that main guitar. So just a really cool little part, cool amalgamation of guitars, little clean guitars, delay and reverb. It just makes an ambient sound. The progression that's going on there is it's a B major with a D sharp in the bass, and then it goes to E minor, and then it goes to a C, and then it goes to an A with a C sharp in the bass, which just had made it a really cool vibe to it. It's not stuck in any particular key, but I like the way it turned out. This is what the vocal and the guitars sound like.
The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell.
So then it gets a little beefy in the second half of that. So we add these, what I call gent guitars right here. Doing that half bend, playing a little bit heavier on the pick. I also do the same thing on the bass. This is what that sounds like.
It goes beyond the highest star.
Then it picks up interest a little bit in the pre-chorus section. I'll play through that real quick. I got some inspiration for this part from some of the heavier songs that I listen to, like Ocean's 8 Alaska. There's a song called Escapist that they do. I like their instrumental version of that. So I pulled some elements, some gent elements from there, and then there's a song by a band called Destiny Potato called Indifferent. There's some grooves that I kind of was inspired by that I put in here in this pre-chorus, and then also in the pre-chorus upcoming. So this is what that pre-chorus sounds like before we get into the intro.
The guilty pair bowed down with care. God gave his son to win. His erring child he reconciled and pardoned from his sin.
So the vocals are doing some cool stuff. I'll showcase that real quick. So I got Emery to sing on that B note, and it's cool. It's just like a droning kind of deal, and it sounds really, really fun. Altogether, it creates some dissonances that are really, really cool.
The guilty pair bowed down with care. God gave his son to win. His erring child he reconciled and pardoned from his sin.
So yeah, just a really fun part there. And I think it was actually Anne-Marie's idea and a really cool part in the song. Also in that part, we're adding some interesting elements in the drums, some cool hi-hat work going on. Let's see, we'll play through this part. So then also the guitars are doing some cool stuff right here as well. The guitars and the bass. So this is what that sounds like by itself. So yeah, that was really fun to play. Playing really close to the bridge, doing a lot of like bends, half bends on the notes. Some of the notes probably later on I play behind the nut, like I'll bend up from behind the nut, and I wore out a pick or two. I played really hard and really close to the bridge on some of these parts just to get the tone that I wanted out of the guitar. The guitar that I'm playing is a Telecaster. It's a Nashville setup. It's got the 3 pickups, the 2 silvers, and then the 1 single coil pickup. It's a Blackout, I believe, that I got several years ago, probably in 2007. It's in drop B right now, so I put some heavier gauge strings on it, and that's the guitar that is playing all of the lower stuff in this song. So yeah, we go into the intro. We'll showcase some transitions here. The intro is really fun. I actually have a playthrough video of the guitar part where you can see that Telecaster, This is what that part sounds like right here. So I remember where I was when I thought of that part. I think I was sitting on the couch somewhere, and I've got it on my phone. I'm not going to pull it up right now, but I was just playing around with it, and I got some inspiration for some of those parts from a song by Wolves at the Gate called Shadows. I took some of the ideas from their little intro in that song and applied it to this one. So this is what the guitar part sounds like by itself. So like I said, I do a playthrough of that with that guitar. I have a video of that up somewhere in the YouTubes. And then there's a tremolo guitar that goes along with it, and I call these two support guitars. There's one on the left doing one thing and the other on the right doing the other thing to kind of help this out a little bit. So this is what the tremolo guitar sounds like, just a little simple lead line with a ton of reverb and a ton of delay. And there's a pad to accentuate that. So that happens in the chorus too. There's the pad and that tremolo guitar playing together. This is what the rhythm guitars sound like together. So that's a technique I like to do with rhythm and lead guitars. Like if I can separate some guitars to make one part sound more clear, I'll do it. Like you can see, I played the whole thing through here, but I also accented just the rhythm parts, and then there's like little lead parts in between those. So this is what that sounds like. So a lot of cool stuff going on there. Then we hop into verse 2. Some really fun stuff going on there. Little spices playing left and right, up the middle. So this is what the verse sounds like with everything in.
Ancient days shall pass away, and earthly thrones and kingdoms fall. When men who hear refuse to pray, on rocks and hills and mountains call.
So then it hops into the pre-chorus after that, but a couple of cool noteworthy things to mention before we get there. The rhythm guitars are just playing a straight chugga rhythm, and I like how that sounded. And I am accenting that with a pad, which I'll show in just a minute, which I think really brings out the rhythmic element of those guitars. So this is what the guitars sound like.
When ancient days shall pass away,
So with the pad that's going on there. This is what it sounds like. And you'll see it solidifies the rhythm of those guitars, which is really cool. And the bass is doing the same rhythm. You've already heard the little lead line that goes through. I copied it, I doubled it, tripled it. So I got a pad part playing it, the piano playing it, and then the guitar is playing it as well. So this is what that sounds like. A technique I like to use when I'm wanting to solidify any element in a song is I'll double it or triple it with another instrument, be it a vocal or a pad or the piano. So you can hear the piano is the kind of plinkier side of it, the pad is the more ambient side of it, and the guitar is kind of the more mid-range part of it, which it comes out really cool in the mix. So then going into the pre-chorus, this is where we get some more djent elements. It drops out of any sort of key, essentially it's just hanging on a B, but the drums are doing some cool stuff and the guitars are doing some djent stuff along with the bass. There was plenty of editing that happened here. One thing I found with doing this style of music, you're doing a lot of cuts and moving and transient work, and you want it to come out as clean as possible. But this is the first time I've ever produced a song like this. As much as I enjoy listening to this type of music, it's my favorite type of music, but I never actually spent time producing or arranging or recording anything like this. So there was a lot of learning. It took a long time to put this thing together. Like, I don't have a lot of time as it is. I've got 4 kids, 1 newborn, and so most of my work is done before I go to work early in the morning before the kids wake up, or late at night after everybody's asleep. So a 30-minute chunk here, 40-minute chunk there. Sometimes I'll take my computer to work. Actually, I do every day right now, but on my lunch break I'll do some mixing or editing. Anyways, that's a personal note, but here's what the pre-chorus sounds like in the drums. There's a dropout right there. So this is what the guitars and the bass sound like in that section with the drums. And so you don't miss out on that transition. So I did a little tape stop there. That's what I heard in my head when I got to that part. I had to have the tape stop, so I had to do a bunch of searching on YouTube to figure out how to do a tape stop without having a tape stop machine or a tape stop plug-in. And I found something, and I've already forgotten how to do it. Anyways, I know how to find the video. Originally, I took my Traveler guitar, which is, I had it in drop D, and played this little whammy bar thing right here, which I like how it sounds too, but I wanted the tape stop. So this is what that sounds like. So the pre-chorus sounds like this as a whole. We'll play through it real quick.
God's love so sure shall still endure, all naturalist and strong. New demons to Adam's race, the saints and angels so.
So that's what it sounds like as a whole, and I'll showcase some of these djent guitars real quick. So there's a guitar that's playing harmonics, like I think I did one on the 3rd fret and one on the 5th fret, tandem left and right. And this is where I'm taking my pick and just playing so close to the bridge, as close as the bridge as I can. Kind of got the pick angled, so I'm playing it like that. And I was doing all downstrokes, actually. It's the only way I could get it to sound the way I wanted it to. And so those particular guitars I was just talking about sound like this. And then you got some clicky guitars that are just literally playing a muted note, and they're kind of shifting between the left and the right. So this is what that sounds like. And then you got these gent guitars. So that's the ones I was talking about. I was playing behind the nut, so pre-bending, playing right at the bridge, and letting off. So down, 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 down. That's where a lot of editing happened. You can see I actually bounced these down, but you can see I've kind of matched the waveforms and stuff. And then there's that little lead part in the middle, harkening back to the intro. That's one of my favorite parts of the intro. And then there's this seagull type sound, which I just took this right here and copied it and pasted it here because I thought it needed to be there. So there's a slide up and it sounds like a seagull almost. So after that, we hop into the first chorus, which sounds like this. So before we get into the second half, that's where I introduce that tremolo guitar back in. I just want to show off the rhythm of the chorus, which is really fun. I separated the tracks, so I've got the two low guitars playing the main structure of the chord, and then up to like a ninth, I believe, on most of them. So like when you're in a drop tuning, if you play a bar on the low two strings and then you go out 2 frets, it adds a ninth. But it's a cool sound. I really like the sound of that. Like you think Everlong or something like that, you know, just that extension. So a lot of the chords are like that. But then there's a little, almost a funk guitar playing a more trebly part. But this is what the two rhythm guitars sound like together. And then with that trebly guitar up higher, I'm pretty sure I played this on either my Chapman or my Traveler guitar, so it was not in the drop tuning. Like I just did the second half, the kind of the E end part of it, and this is what that sounds like together. Just some cool extensions of those chords, really fun part. And then we introduce a new instrument, the horns. So it just kind of adds a hopefulness to the chorus, which is really fun. Into the second half where we add the tremolo guitar playing a really fun line. Actually, there's two. There's a tremolo guitar and then there's one that's playing octaves with a wah pedal, which I literally used automation to automate the wah sound. So this is what that sounds like together. A fun addition to the chorus. And then there's another part I want to point out. There's a cool fill that happens, and then I tried to arrange the guitars and the bass to do a cool thing around that. So yeah, it's a cool little fill. That was actually accidental. Like I was copy and pasting from the first chorus, and somehow it rhythmically was a little bit different. And I heard it and I was like, man, that's really cool. I need to make that pop. So what I did was I took and did kind of a different inversion on that particular part in the chord progression. So I thought that was a pretty cool part to add. So let's listen through the whole chorus so you get the full effect. So then it gets crazy. We got the breakdown. So there was a part in the tremolo guitar. I'll play the original take and see if you can figure out what happened, and I'll let you know in just a second. Any guesses? Leave them in the comments below. All right, so that was the original take, and then this is what it is now. So I kept the original take, but I had to stretch it out to get that last part to fit at the breakdown. So this is what it sounds like now. So no seagulls were harmed in the making of this song. That is actually a string breaking. I actually started the tremolo on the wrong note, a note that I didn't want to start it on, and then I just naturally started to bend to get it to the right note, and I guess I needed to change the strings on that guitar because it just broke. And so I think, honestly, it just adds that much more to the song because that part of the song is meant to be really tense. Like there's a lot of tense guitars going on, kind of like some minor second things going on, and a lot of dissonance and some really nasty guitars. So this is what some of the guitars are doing right here. So just some cool little parts going on there, and then these guitars. So as a whole, instrumentally, this is what this section sounds like. So now I'm starting to wonder if I should have just kept that original string break in there as well, because I thought that sounded pretty neat. So this is what the string break part sounded like without the other one. So yeah, there's also this part right here that adds to the tension. Gets chaotic. That's just what happened to be whenever you use the MIDI controller with the little slider thing on there. That's what that effect or that particular VST did whenever you went crazy on it, and I thought it was kind of neat, and so I kept it. And then we add these, I called them dirt guitars. What I did was I took and I just played, I think it was like first fret on the low B string and then open on the next two strings down, and then I pitched the whole thing down an octave. So this is what that sounds like. Real nasty sounding. It adds to the effect. So in this part, the reason I went with this sort of thing in the breakdown, it's thematic, because what I'm saying here in this part right here is,
when ancient days shall pass away and earthly kingdoms fall, when men who hear refuse to pray on rocks and mountains crawl.
so it's like exhibiting a little bit of frustration, like when we refuse to pray, the mountains and the rocks have to cry out. It's kind of alluding to even the rocks will cry out. To me, it's kind of frustrating even when we as Christians, we're refusing to pray. And so to enhance the emotion of that, like the rocks cry out, I made it to where I screamed that part and kind of shouted the frustrating part. And so that's the whole point of this section, just to exhibit a little bit of frustration even with myself, like when I don't pray, when I'm not being consistent in my walk. It's an exhibition of frustration, and so that's why I put the screams in this part, just to kind of enhance that thought. So this is what the breakdown sounds like all together, and then it goes into a really fun guitar solo, and I'll play through the breakdown and I'll play through the guitar solo.
When ancient days shall pass away and earthly kingdoms fall, when men who hear refuse to pray on rocks and mountains fall.
So it's a really fun guitar solo, really fun to play, fun to listen to. I enjoyed playing it and coming up with it. I remember where I was actually at work on my lunch break when I came up with that beginning part, and I was at my kitchen table as usual when I actually completed the solo and kind of came up with it. The ending was an accident, the high bend and then sliding up to the bend, to the octave. I was initially going to try and do like a super quick pentatonic descending lick. I just couldn't fit it in there how I wanted to, and so that's how it ended up. It's cool and melodic. So that's what it sounded like with that fill and the guitar solo by itself. But then we got to the third verse, and for the longest time I didn't have anything in the verse portion, but I knew for a fact that I wanted this rhythm on the pre-chorus part. So for the longest time I had just this kick and snare pattern. So yeah, until I figured out what I was going to do with the verse, that's what I was working with. Anyways, so we hop into that. When I finally got the idea of what I wanted to do, I was at my kitchen table with the telly, and this little guitar ditty came to my mind. And so this is what that sounds like by itself. Cool syncopated thing, and then I reintroduced the reverse guitar, and then the two little lead guitars from the beginning, which have a place at the end as well. So with the bass and the guitars and the drums, this is how the verse turned out. And then with everything, vocals and all, I put my vocal on the forefront on this one just because it's my favorite verse, and I wanted to add some variety to the song. So as a whole, this is what that section sounds like.
Could we within the ocean fill? And were the skies of parchment made? Were every stalk on earth a quill? And every man a scribe by trade? To write the
So yeah, that's the third verse, and then I added the vocals that Amory did from the first pre-chorus, except there's a little variation, and I want to showcase that. So this is what that pre-chorus sounds like all together with all the instruments.
To write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky.
So the guitars they're following that drum rhythm, which is what I had in the beginning, the guitars and the bass, and then also that little arpeggiated, bouncy synth from the beginning, which accentuates this part really well as well. And then at the very end of that, there's a cool reverby vocal part that Emery came up with, and it goes to the major third of the B and leads right into the down chorus, it's just so cool. This is what that sounds like.
Contain a whole, go stretch from sky to sky.
You take that acoustic guitar out.
Go stretch from sky to sky.
Really cool, really fun reverb extension on that note. It blends into that down chorus really good. So the down chorus is just a pair of stereo guitars, acoustic guitars. They're tuned down to B standard tuning. I'll play those with some stereo electric guitars, clean reverb guitars. This is what that sounds like. So instrumentally, all that's going on, there's a piano, there's the two acoustics, and some strings. So yeah, just a fun little section of the song. I'll play through the whole thing real quick for you.
Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong.
And then we go into the last chorus. One thing I want to show off is a transition. So I have not showed any of these off, but in the transition portions, I think you gain a lot of depth and you gain a lot of interest if you do your transitions. And you don't have to do it between every single section, but it's always fun to have some transitions like reverse pianos, reverse cymbal swells, reverse guitars. And one of my favorite parts of this song is this transition right here. There's a minor second way up high on the guitar, and just played it regular and then reversed it with a lot of reverb on it and all that stuff. And so this is what that transition sounds like. I'll put the drums in because I really love the kick tom thing that happens right here. It's just so stinking cool. So this is what that sounds like. I'll do it again because I really enjoy it. It almost feels like the guitar is going from left to right, and it's just like sweeping across. every time I hear the part of the song, I want to do the kick tom thing, and it's just so fun. So yeah, on the transition here, just a cymbal swell, a guitar swell, which is minor second thing, and a piano swell. So then we go into the second to last chorus, the cut time, which was a requirement for me. I had to have a cut time chorus. We'll go from the down chorus to the second half of that chorus. This is what that sounds like.
Tattered sky, oh love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong. It shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song.
So another thing I want to mention, this little dry vocal right here, transitioning, is me, obviously. But I came out here in my shed and had a blanket over my head because I don't have any acoustic treatment in here, and sang this one part because I wanted it to be as dry as I could with no room sound, and so I just compressed the mess out of it. I think I threw some distortion on it, but this is what that sounded like.
How measureless and strong.
So that was fun little behind the scenes peek into the song. And then going into that final chorus, I'll go ahead and embarrass myself here. So originally this is how it was before I got Amory to sing on it, and you'll hear me straining, and there's a lot of melodyne on this part, but almost hit the notes.
Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song.
So I kept that in there just so I could have the distortion and add a little more power to it. So with me and Amory together, and I also have some octave below vocals, which sounds like this.
Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little more thickness to it. That's what my vocal is there for, because Amory's voice is such a sweet voice. It sounds so good. I love how her voice sounds in here, but there needed to be a little more thickness, so I put some distortion on my vocal and added it to it. This is what her voice sounds like.
Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song.
So good. Anyway, so the last chorus adds a bunch. So we're going to add some strings, and I'll show you what those sound like, just the string arrangement of the last chorus. So here we go. So yeah, that's what that sounds like. And then also another thing I want to show off is this reverse piano between each chord. So it adds this sort of element of lifting to the song itself when you have this reverse piano going into each chord, especially if the chord changes aren't super fast. I think it adds a lot to just the anticipation of each chord. So this is what that sounds like. So yeah, as far as the guitars go, I reintroduced that tremolo guitar. The guitars are obviously following the cut time theme. The basses also. I also added some screams to accentuate the beginning lines So as a whole, this is what the high part of the chorus sounds like. So that's how that chorus sounds as a whole. And then the outro, we reintroduce the guitars from the beginning, the little lead guitar parts, and some strings follow that. Instrumentally, this is what the ending sounds like. So we have these strings right here, and they follow these guitars and these guitars. So this is what that sounds like. So we got the pulsating strings, and then there's some other cellos going along with, also with a melody line. So then there's also these guitars, one up the middle, doing some clean stuff, and then some slightly overdriven guitars on the left and the right, keeping the rhythm. And then you got your O's, 10 tracks of O's. So there it is. There's the song, The Love of God. Definitely one of my favorite projects that I have been a part of, that I've been able to do. So yeah, if you enjoy this sort of content, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. I am planning on doing more of these type videos once I have more songs to throw in. This is the last song on this particular project. I do have plans to do a CCM, Hymns Reimagined. That is coming up. I have one song completed on there and 3 more to record. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Until we meet again, I hope you guys are doing well, and we'll do the playthrough here on this last part of the chorus into the outro, and we'll see you soon. Bye.